Angela was asking, how can you help, kids in high school live or find fulfilling lives instead of getting caught up in all the drama and negativity of school? And I know a lot of what you talked about certainly helps there. Is there something that comes to your mind when working with youth?
Absolutely. I actually love working with children, and what children need the most right now. And I also learned this being home with my nieces and nephews, they just want to be seen. There was this meme where this parent was telling this kid, hey, get off that toy. And they're like, what are you going to do? Play with me? And so a lot of times we just spending time, quality time, playing in nature and just asking children like, what do you like? And things like that. That's really what children need. They just need more personal time with us, with adults.
That's good. And what if they're struggling in school where they're being made fun of, or there's, lots of drama there, and you as an adult, as a parent, you feel connected, but they're struggling. I think it's such an interesting question because I think it applies to all of us at work too, or applies to us on a project or initiative. What happens when you, or maybe your immediate family is supportive, but out in the world, you're not getting that support? So like that sense of fulfillment that could be there isn't there because the social support isn't there.
I got bullied all the time in school. And I know this is similar to what I just said, but if you don't believe me, watch King Richard. Will Smith was playing Venus and Serena's dad. He got ridiculed. They got ridiculed. But when you have a strong person, and I didn't have this growing up, not that my parents couldn't have done it, they just didn't know. But when you have a strong person in your life telling you you're great, telling you you're amazing, saying it's okay if people did this and did that, or talking to them about the things that happen at school, that alone is going to help them heal. I'm not going to say anything you can say can prevent someone or prevent a child from not experiencing trauma, but it's how it's handled and that reinforcement of them still being valued, still being loved, and still knowing that, hey, you're beautiful. What if they got a scratch on their face or they it's okay, you're beautiful and you're strong, And I think that reinforcement from adults and reinforcement of value is really what's going to help our children, and not, oh, you'll be fine. It's okay. Stop crying. We really have to hold them right now because they're not getting held as much in school and social media. It's like instant gratification and on to the next. So there's a lot of emotional abuse happening. So I think what we can really do as adults and as parents and leaders is really take the time to nurture, see, value, and affirm children. Okay, this is a really good question. So the question is coming up, when you're around super needy friends, and healthy boundaries are important, especially in friendships. So you have to know, and this goes with time, this goes with money, this goes across the board. And we talked about in another session. So definitely, if you didn't hear my session on healthy boundaries, please go back and listen to it and take notes there, because healthy boundaries in healthy friendships is very important. You never, ever, ever want to do something that is outside of your scope, right? So if a friend says, I'm struggling financially, can you loan me $500? If you don't have the money to loan, just because you ask doesn't mean you have to give them $500. You can say, oh, wow, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Let's talk about this and let's unpack this a little bit. What is your current situation? And you can ask more questions. And at the end of the day, you might say, hey, I can't loan you the $500, but I can help you look for a job. I can help you apply for a loan. I can help you apply for a credit. You see? So it's not always that just because you ask, you have to do what that person is asking for. You have to make sure you have a healthy boundary on what you can do. And just because you have it doesn't mean you have to support in that way. You can support mentally, spiritually, physically, or emotionally. So that spiritual support is like, hey, let's just pray about it. Let's meditate. Let's manifest on how, and you can do a visioning together. And I learned this from Michael Bernard Beckwith of Agape Spiritual Center. So what we do within the church and also within the entire community is we vision together. So, or I can give you $100 towards it. Exactly. Good compromise. But let me tell you something that's even more powerful is visioning and sitting with a person, whether it be a relationship or whether it be, spiritual, and either of the things we talk about, spiritual wellness, but actually sitting with them and visioning. And Reverend Beckwith has a book called Visioning, where he teaches like life visioning and envisioning what you want in different areas of your life. I highly recommended Life Visioning by Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. But basically you sit with your friend and you close your eyes and you put what's on the table, what's the challenge, and you vision seeing it happening differently. And you just sit there, breathe in meditation, and divine downloads come through. They just come through. And then afterwards you talk about it, like what came up for you, and they share and you share. And then together they decide finally, ultimately what they want to do with their life. So don't forget that it might be a spiritual help. And then well-being, you might say, hey, I know that you're struggling because you're having a hard time getting to work, or you might be able to drive them to work. So there are just so many things that you can do to support a friend. So please don't think it's always financial. I have been in that place, being financially stable, where I felt like I leaned into giving financially because I was traveling and because I'm in California, and that's all I felt like I could do. Right? But that's so not true, because what I started to learn is that I can get on the phone, I can vision with them, I can help them in other ways that are actually going to be more helpful in the long term. Sometimes we get into what is called handicap friendships. And what that means is that if every time someone asks for money, you give it to them, and you're not actually helping them with the problem that they're going through, it's handicapping them to find the solution. But if you actually vision with them and help them find a solution, then hopefully they won't necessarily have to keep coming back to ask you for money. That solution might be a therapist or a doctor, or, because you don't know, sometimes sometimes you don't, but you don't know what they're using the money for. I think whenever you give money, you have the prerogative to ask, what is this money going to? How are you using it? Or you can pay, if it's a bill or something that they need, you can pay it yourself. But definitely make sure, if you feel like you're in a toxic relationship where you're giving and giving and you don't, and the person we are all needy by nature, so I always say we're needy by nature. So people are going to need your time, your efforts, and your support, but it is up to us to set those healthy boundaries in friendship, and know like where you stand and what you want to give and what you can. And that can be mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. It could be a phone call. It could be financial. It could just be spending time with them. But yeah, exactly. You don't have to just feed them the fish. You could teach them how to fish. I mean, I don't eat fish, but that's beside the point.
I've got questions for you today. Let's start with Stephanie asking, how do you deal with other people's negativity? Because it can cause a decrease in your own productivity and calmness. So obviously in the world right now, there's a lot of that energy. And we're all surrounded by some people who understand our journey and are opening and welcoming, and other people not so much. So how do you suggest people deal with other people's negativity?
That is such a great question. And the number one question I get, and the number one answer is healthy boundaries. So that healthy boundary might look like, thank you for sharing that with me. How can I support you? Because you don't have to take it on. I mean, everyone's projecting what people should do with their bodies right now. And I will make sure I do not do that. But no matter what your choice is, you have to protect your peace, right? You have to decide whether you even want to share information that you're doing with yourself. And when you do, if someone has a fear that they're projecting onto you and it's not yours, just ask them, how can I support you? And they might say, well, you can support me by doing A, B, telling you what to do. And you can say, well, I'm clear on what I'm doing, what my purpose is, because we just went over it. So this is what I'm doing. How can I support you? And if at that point they're still conflictual with you, you might say, thank you so much for sharing, but I don't want to talk about this right now. I'm very clear on what I'm doing and where I stand, and I love you. And I feel like this is bringing up some frustration within myself and I just want to stay in a place of peace. So you can just say from a space of love, and the way that you ask for that space, it really does help people not be defensive. Sometimes people will be defensive anyway and might get upset at you a little bit, but you have the right to exercise your healthy boundary with saying, hey, this is my choice. How can I support you? And then if that support still is directed by you doing something, you can say, I choose not to talk about this right now. Can we respect that? Or I don't want to talk about the news. Like I specifically tell people, like, I don't mind talking about the news a little bit, but I would love to talk about our purpose and what we're doing. I like talking about the solution, right? So very solution oriented. So that's how I deal with it. I think everyone's way to deal with conflict and negativity is different, but I like to reframe and like, how can I support? And they might say, will you go to this banquet with me? Will you do this thing? And I might want to do it. So coming up with that answer, how can I support you, is my first reaction. And then if there's no way I can support and they're just like, look, I'm just going to crush this negativity on you for the next 5 minutes, I have to pull out and say, you know what, I'm not ready for that. I don't have space for that right now.
I take my health and wellness journey seriously, but I'm getting married to someone who does not. I know I can't change him, but do you have experience inspiring a significant other to want to be better?
Wow, that is such a great question. And congratulations, first of all, with knowing that, it's easier to inspire versus try to change, right?
Yes.
And so that's the key. The more that you make food for your partner and your love and say, do you want to try this? And you make it look cute and try this and make 2 green juices. Would you like a green juice or would you like a smoothie? Just love them up with the food. And, I have a partner who is not vegan, but honestly, it's me making so much food. He's like, you know what? I really like this. This is really good. Oh my goodness. I can't believe this is good. This is chicken. I made this chicken out of oyster mushrooms, and he was mind blown. So I made like oyster mushrooms and pancakes. Blow their mind. Okay. Get some good recipes and blow their mind. But a lot of times you might not want to tell them it's vegan. You might say, I just made this for you. Do you want to try this? It's a lot easier than just saying, will you go vegan with me or try this lifestyle? It's easier just to offer up different foods and make different things for them, or maybe ask them to go to a restaurant with you, but try the food beforehand to make sure it's good. Because sometimes when people have a bad experience, it puts a bad taste in their mouth. So just, and be patient. And like you said, again, loving them where they're at and being loving to them no matter what, and ask them, you like it? Do you not like it? And just really kind of being on the journey with them and just valuing like where they are and respecting where they are is what I suggest. Because my sister, when I first came home and told my family, like they were like, what? And I was telling them all these things. You don't want to do information only. I would tell them all the things, like there's this and this and MSG and all this, like, this is bad for you and artificial flavoring. And like, you don't want to do that. And they were just like, side eye, right? They're just looking at me like, okay, Koya, like you've been in California too long. But when I made them vegan lasagna, when I made them vegan carrot cake, when I made them smoothies every morning, they enjoyed it. And my sister has now been plant-based for like 3 years, and her daughters as well. But I had to show her, make it with her, shop with her. So the more you bring them along with the experience and show them how yummy and fun it is, the more likely it is to be an inspiration and put them in alignment with what's going to be best for them as well.
If you were coaching a couple and they were having relationship problems and condescension was a problem in that relationship over and over, what would you advise that couple to work through? So it sounds like there are probably 1 or 2 of them, honestly, from the wording here, it sounds like they're probably condescending each other during a conflict or through the day-to-day. How would you suggest they work through that?
That is a great question. I'm going to be honest. I am a coach. I am not a therapist. And I highly suggest therapy. 100% couples therapy is something that I think is important because it's acknowledging, right? It's acknowledging both sides and acknowledging how each other feels. And there has to be practices set up to where both people get an opportunity to express and both people get an opportunity to share how certain things make them feel. And a lot of times, and I can say this because I know I had to struggle with my father with this, he would say condescending things, but he didn't feel like they were condescending, but I felt like they were. And so I literally, sometimes you have to get a third person that person respects, to let them know, like, this is why this feels not so great to this person. And it comes to mutual respect, because the thing is, we all are different, right? So one thing I can say to Brendan, be like, this, I can say something to him, I might not be able to say that to Jenna. So it's really not about a right or wrong. It's about acknowledging another person's feelings. And if they tell you, when you say this, it hurts my feeling, they just got to stop doing it. I mean, like I said, I'm not a therapist, but at the end of the day, and I told my father, at the end of the day, if when you say this, it's painful to me, I'm just requesting and asking you not to say it. And it really does have to be that clear. So I do coach people, if you're in relationships, business relationships, personal relationships, where someone is doing something to harm you, I always go as an optimist, right? I am an optimist. I always go that they didn't intend to. They didn't intend to. I'm never like, oh, they're trying to just hurt me. They're trying to put me down. And, I know some people, there are some toxic people out there, and there are some people who are in a bad place, and, they do some things that are harmful intentionally. But I mostly feel like a lot of times, especially in loving relationships, that people do harm, but it's unintentional. So first, remember that, so you have a level of compassion, but then be able to have that conversation, like we talked about earlier, to say, this is how this makes me feel. Do you mind? And that's creating also a healthy boundaries, which we talk a lot about in the community, creating a healthy boundary to how you would like to be talked to, how you would like to be treated. You might like your door to be open, or you might like someone to say hi when they come in the room, and they might just go about their business, So it's really about communication. So I would say, number one, therapy. Number two, communication. And then number three, both sharing on both sides, not just one-sided. Like, how would you like to be talked to? How would you like to be talked to? Is there anything that I say that bothers you? And then going from there and having a loving conversation about what's needed in the relationship.
So good. So good. Audra's asking, what can you do to strengthen your circle if your family or friends aren't interested in letting you in? So you're talking about strengthening your circle, getting around good people. We're always talking about that, but what if your immediate circle just aren't letting you in? What else can you do to maybe open up those relationships or new relationships?
Right. I got to admit, that's really hard, and it sounds like maybe something went down and you're not in again. A lot of times, I'll give you a couple different answers. The first thing I like to do is I ask for a heart to heart, because a lot of times you get removed from a circle. And even when I told you about a relationship that I had that basically it was rough, it was because of miscommunication. So I highly suggest, number one, acknowledge how you feel, what you're doing now, and then have a heart to heart and really listen to their perspective and their side, and say, hey, I really love to be part of this family event, or I really love to be, but this, can I really understand why? If they've already told you why, and they're like, no, because of your choices or how you are, we don't want you, then honestly, you have to find people that you resonate with. You got to find your tribe. And that's what I did. I miss my family. I'm not around them, but my mindset somehow is just different. I'm really excited about growth. I'm really excited about health. I'm really excited. And I had to search and flow and find people that resonated so that I could feel healthy and I could feel fed on a regular basis. Now, do I still have fun and go see my family? Absolutely. But there was a time in life where I had to nourish myself and surround myself with people so I can continue to grow and evolve. So one, acknowledge your feelings, have a heart to heart, try to connect with them and see their perspective. And if you can meet, and then two, find your tribe, find people that you do resonate with and that want you in their group.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.